Okay, now that's vertically. He started to break the defender's leverage, his position of power with lift, all right, with the hip surging. Now, that defender ain't just going to stand there like a sled and let you push him back. He's going to use some kind of block defeat. Maybe it's a sling, maybe it's push-pull, rip, swim, whatever those moves are, okay? So we also have to be side to side. We have to be in a position of power laterally. How do we do that? We call it base and stagger. So 345s to get that vertical plane, that vertical position of power, and then base and stagger, okay? So base basically is sturdy, solid. We use the instep or the arch side of the foot. I use the term arch pressure. I want all those cleats in the ground, the whole foot on the ground. It's like roots of a tree. The bigger the tree gets, what happens? The roots go not just straight down, but they go out to stabilize that tree, okay? And then we also have to have a stagger, okay? So I'm back and forth, not just laterally, but forward and backward, I'm sturdy too. And I put a picture of this Harley Davidson, this big old bike right here is held up by this little kickstand. It doesn't have to be much of a stagger. If I'm on the left side, usually my left foot's back just a little bit. All right, if I'm on the right side, that right foot's back. But I always have a stagger, right, in pass protection or in run blocking. I always got one foot behind the other to create a position of power front to back, okay? And then the third thing we do, we engage the inner thighs. All right, back in the day, it was a Jim McNally thing we used to say. I know these cameras are tough, but we used to say we pinch the knees, all right? And we pivot the knees in, create a lower body triangle, okay? And it was good because it created shin angle so I could, again, Newton's third law, if I wanted to go right, I could push, or I could push off my left, all right, instep, all right? I created that shin angle to move laterally. Trouble with that is it puts a lot of stress on the MCL, okay? So what we've changed the idea to is engage the inner thighs. Squeeze those adductor muscles, and specifically it's the VMO. So we squeeze those inner thigh muscles, all right? And what that does is create a shin angle. So if Landon right here, if he wanted to move to his left, he could put force in the ground on this vector, all right? So equal and opposite, he can move left. So now the 45-degree ankle in the, or in the angle in the ankle, I can go forward. I squeeze my inner thighs, create a lower body triangle. Now I can move left and right, okay? Now I can move left and right. All right, let's show how we get into that, okay? So the next picture here is just how we get into our stance. Now, we don't get up on the line of scrimmage to do this, but this is the first day of camp. This is the first day of summer, first day of spring, first day of winter conditioning. And shoot, week 4, I'm gonna jump them back in this and let's get back in our stance, okay? So what we do is we get their feet right close together, right? And I tell him to bounce it out. And he bounces that thing out until he feels the weight shift to his arch side of his foot. We call it the instep, all right? The other thing that you see that naturally happens is he toes out a little bit, just like in the squat rack. It's our body saying that's where we're the sturdiest. That's where we're the most stable, right? And then he'll posture back and forth to feel the weight shift to the insteps, right? Then he's going to squeeze his inner thighs, all right? He's going to squeeze his inner thighs, and then he's going to get a big butt and big chest. We'll talk about arch here in a second, all right? He's going to flex his wrist, rotate his elbows back. Now, he takes that palm of the hand, all right? We call it the tip of the spear. That's what we connect with. That's what we strike with. And he slides it right down his thigh boards until it hits the top of the knee. Typically, all right, right there, that position, we've got our 345s, our shin angles. All right, he squeezes inner thighs, so he's got shin angles left to right and forward and back. Okay, got his big butt, big chest, so he's stable through the middle of the body. And then the chin is up, elbows are rotated back, wrists are flexed. That's our 2-point stance, right? And then if I say getting a 3-point, all he's going to do is visualize his left eyeball falls out of the socket and it hits right below it. And he's just going to take 4 fingers and a thumb and gently rest them on the ground. So it's a balanced stance. It's a balanced position to start. It's a balanced position that we're going to block from. Okay, here's a side picture of it. All he's done right here, he's got right in that stance. We just call it hand carry. All right, so all he's done is brought his hands up, and I say elbows right in front of the hip bones, hands in front of the elbows. All right, and the hands are apart. Why are the hands apart? Okay, and we'll get into, maybe strike down the road one of these days. But we use a torque strike where we're going to supinate the elbow inside to create more power, more force in the short area. All right. The other thing is why we want our hands apart is if that defender gets one, okay, I still got one. If I carry my hands together and that defender swipes, he gets one, he gets both. Okay. So that's our run blocking position. 345s, big butt, big chest, arch in the lower back, arch in the neck. Okay, so we got the front picture and the side picture of that. Okay, next thing we're going to look at is now that lane again. Here's that left guard. I showed you where he was just starting to break that 3 techniques vertical leverage. Okay, but now watch what happens. Okay, he's broken the vertical leverage. He's got 45s. He's straight legged. Right, hands are inside and underneath. Elbows are tight. They're supinated in. He's in a balanced position of power. He's owning this block, but they're not going to stay there for us. Okay, they're coached too. So he uses what we call, some people call it tear. I just call it a sling, where he's going to try to sling us off him. Okay, he's trying to break our lateral leverage. Okay, in that frontal plane, he's trying to sling us off. Lane gets out of his balanced position power. He loses leverage for a second. Okay, you're not going to be in perfect leverage through the entire block. But watch what happens. He gets back to leverage. All right, he gets back to his position of power, and he stays connected all the way through that block. And you can see at the end there, he gives a shove off. He outplays him. That's our finish right there. Okay, so it's a perfect picture of he breaks the initial leverage. All right, we saw that picture right there. He breaks the initial leverage. The defender fights back, breaks our lateral leverage. We get back to our position of power and drive him 5 yards down the field and finish the block on our knee target. Okay, but I always get the question now, well, coach, what about pad level? All right, my whole career, my whole life, everyone's always taught it's got to be chin under, helmet under chin. I've got to be lower. Low man wins. That's leverage. Okay, I get it. Talked about 45 creates that balanced position of power. Okay, the center of gravity is in a position to move the defender vertically while sustaining the block. Shoot, you might get more initial movement, but once that guy quick swims, once that guy push pulls, you're going to be on your face. We can stay connected with the 45. Okay, we can stay connected, and we believe we're stronger in that position. We're more powerful. Okay, the 345s, I talked about the joint centration, all that kind of stuff. But to me, this is one of the most important ones, especially, and I've been on this crusade getting the head out of the block. All right, when you watch our tape and you look at our helmets, our guys don't have the old, you know, the battle marks, the scars on the front of the helmet. If anything hits, it's going to be the face mask. We're not hitting that frontal lobe 65 times in a football game, right? And if you're teaching pad level, you're coaching pad level, and I'm not here to say there's anything wrong with that, but what's the first thing that's making contact? It's the head, it's the frontal lobe, okay? So it allows us to make this game safer, and what we've seen is we've been even more powerful, and our performance has improved. And I put a picture of Mike Webster. Now, Webster was the best center of all time, maybe. All right. And here's great pad level. Okay. Flat back. He's getting that guy moved. But what's the first thing on that defender? It's his head. Second thing is, if he rips off this block, shoot, Mike Webster might be right on his face, and that guy might be tagging the ball carrier. All right. And I put a clip on here to back it up. All right. Because I got a couple guys right here that look good. They don't look good. Okay. So here's Landon. Here's that 78. We'll see again here in a second. All right, but here he is, you know, he's pushing his dad's van. Now, if he pushed up here with 345s, dad would get pissed because he'd crinkle in the sheet metal there. So he's down on the bumper, okay? I just saw a guy push a semi-truck with 345s, and he's pushing a van, okay? Here's why we don't believe in pad level right here. This is Slippery Rock. This was week 1 a year ago. Here's basically all 4 guys. Their block separation technique, we call it a push-pull, all right? Almost in unison. It's an RPO, so we can't see the whole thing. But check this out, guys. Check this out right here. Let me get it right there, okay? All 3 guys, right when we go to break their leverage, it's a push and a pull. Some people call it a snatch, whatever you want to call it, right? But if your weight forward, if your pads are down and flat back, you're going to be on the ground, okay? And watch what happens here. 78, start with him. He gets pulled, but he arches his back and he gets back to position a little bit. 72 gets pulled, gets his feet back underneath, surges his hips. He's in good shape. Watch 69. He gets pulled, all right? His back is too flat. He's on the ground, all right? That guy's disconnected from the block.